Welcome, welcome, everyone. Everybody who's here in person, and certainly everyone who's watching online. Thank you for coming to our service today. So, I've got the bully pulpit today. I'm so excited. And I want to talk about how every Sunday we talk about how service is our law as part of our covenant. There are three ways in which I think we need to be giving more service to FCU right now. And one of those, do I have it now? Okay. One of those has to do with our Director of Religious Education and our program for the children. She's new, and so when she's trying to recruit someone to be with her on Sundays, she has a problem. She doesn't know any of us, or very few of us yet. So I think it's up to us as congregants to get to know Thea, to go out and introduce ourselves to her, to offer to help on Sundays. Look at your calendar, figure out when there's a Sunday that you can try being part of the RE program. The other thing I want to remind everybody about is our hospitality on Sundays. So normally, before all of this COVID mess happened, we had people sign up 4 or 5 times a year for different kinds of hospitality. We still need you guys to do that. In fact, I'd like every one of you to do what I did recently, which is go online and sign up for at least 4 different kinds of hospitality between now and January. Don't hesitate, don't wait. Get out there and sign up to usher or to bring flowers to church. It's not that difficult. And the third thing I want to talk about with regards to Service is Our Law is our upcoming fair on October 16th. So it's a mini fair, that's true. We're not having the full fair in Fay Park. But the big items, the big ticket items that take up the most people and the most work, we're still running those, and we still need more help, especially for setup and pickup after the fair is over. So if you could contact me or Lara Simple or sign up online, it would be greatly appreciated. All right, so on October 24th, we're all going to have an opportunity to practice the 5th principle in our UU list of principles, which is democratic decision-making, at our October 24th warranted meeting. But unlike what it says in your Community Matters, it's going to be meeting entirely online, and it's going to happen at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. That way, we all get a chance to go home from church, get our church clothes off, and get into something comfortable, have some lunch, and be ready to exercise our democratic rights in this congregation at 2 o'clock. So in the meantime, check out your Community Matters. It should be tucked into your paper order of service, or you will have gotten an electronic copy earlier this week. There's some other interesting things in there, like a meditation offered by Reverend Lara, and a Zoom meeting for caring for our aging parents. Enjoy this service, and please don't forget to commit to your service. Thank you.
Come into animal presence. No man is so guileless as the serpent. The lonely white rabbit on the roof is a star twitching its ears at the rain. The llama intricately folding its hind legs to be seated, not disdains, but mildly disregards human approval. What joy when the insouciant armadillo glances at us and doesn't quicken his trotting across the track into the palm brush. What is this joy? That no animal falters, but knows what it must do. That the snake has no blemish. That the rabbit inspects his strange surroundings in white star silence. The llama rests in dignity. The armadillo has some intention to pursue in the palm forest. Those who were sacred have remained so. Holiness does not dissolve. It is a presence of bronze. Only the sight that saw it faltered and turned from it. An old joy returns in holy presence. The words of Denise Levertov. Let us worship. I'd like to invite our worship associate to light our chalice. And as Martha lights the chalice, please say with me the words of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Good morning. It's wonderful to see you. I join with Monica in welcoming you to First Church Unitarian here in Littleton, Massachusetts. If you are with us for the first time this morning, either here in the sanctuary or online, a special welcome to you. We're very glad that you found us. And if you wish to leave a record of your presence, if you're here in the sanctuary, I encourage you to fill out a purple card in the pew rack ahead of you and put that in the offering plate when it comes around. If you are with us for the first time online, or if you just wish to make contact with us, I recommend that you go to our website, fculittle.org, and scroll down and look for the virtual pew card. And you can fill that out, and we can contact you if you wish. Our lay pastoral minister today is Chalice. A reminder that we will be meeting on the side lawn after the service. For those of us here in person, for those of us online, there is a Zoom gathering if you wish. And this is St. Francis Sunday, the Sunday of the St. Francis feast in the Catholic tradition. And so today, in his honor, we are thinking about animals or non-human animals. And for soul matters, we are thinking about cultivating relationship. So putting those two themes together today. We are continuing to be in our yellow light conditions because of COVID. And so, in addition to being here masked and with distance and so on, our kids are outside for religious education. And we really miss having them in here. I certainly do, and missing the chance to have Thea Shapiro, our wonderful director of religious education, get to know us better and tell us stories. But as Monica said, we can try to reach out to Thea. And meanwhile, I'm enjoying hearing the kids outside today, so that's kind of sweet. All right, so welcome on this day. It's a little gray, but here comes the sun. We can make it sunnier together. It's a chance now for our remote participants. I always want to say our remote viewers, but then that sounds like, ESP. I don't know how to do remote viewing, but if you are watching us online, this is a chance to greet you, if you haven't already done so, go to this website, Menti, M as in mother, ENTI.com. Put in this number. Today it's 90698745. And if you put that number in there, you can let us know that you're with us. And in a moment, we'll read the names that we have of people who have signed in this way. And then later on, during Candles of Caring, you'll have a chance to enter a joy or concern, if you wish, through this website. So I encourage you to do that now. And while you're doing that, I'll invite our worship associate, Rich, is going to read the names we have so far.
Emily Ferrara and Diggory, Tom B. and Lynn C., Patty Sardella, Jen and Jim Jacksa, Elise Von Ruden, Lori Grant, Linda and Susan, Anna Fadden, Ann Donald, Carolyn Peggy.
All right. Wonderful to have you all with us remotely. Thank you for being here. And I think we are doing pretty well today so far as I can see. So that's wonderful. So continue to let us know you're here as you wish. And shortly we can move on to offer you a chance to put in a joy or concern. But first, it's a time for sharing our generosity. First Church Unitarian here in Littleton is self-supporting. And, oh, I'm sorry. I got a little clue that first we're making a joyful noise. I mean, I have a lot of nerve asking for money before we even made a joyful noise. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do now. This is a chance to share your generosity, if you're able, with First Church Unitarian. We rely on the generosity of our members and friends to keep our ministries going. So if you are online and if you wish to make an offering, you can go to our website, fculittle.org, and look for the yellow donate button, or look for our address and mail in a check if you wish. And we so much appreciate that our members and friends are so generous with us. So thank you, as always, for your generosity. This morning's offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation. Please join with me now in our community response. We are grateful for the opportunity to give and serve, and grateful for the gifts we have received. May this affirm the ministries of our church community, both within and beyond these walls. Many weeks, this congregation shares a sacred time to feel again our deep connections to one another and to the holy. It's in this spirit that we share in our candles of caring. If you have an important joy or concern that you would like to share with this gathered community here and online as well, we invite you to, if you're in the sanctuary, raise your hand so that we can see you, and we'll come to you where you are with a microphone. And please let us know your name and briefly how we might direct our thoughts, prayers, or healing wishes. And for those of you online, again, you can go to menti.com and enter 90698745, and we will get your joy or concern there. Are there any joys or concerns to share this morning? Thank you. I'd like to have one additional candle, and let this represent all the joys and concerns that are with us this morning, but that remain unspoken or unshared. Please join with me in the spirit of meditation or prayer. Once again, we have come together in love and trust, sharing those cares dearest to us with this gathered community. Let us now hold together a time of sacred silence, thinking of those joys and concerns shared, as well as those that remain unspoken. Amen, and blessed be. Last year, for St. Francis Sunday, we considered what some of the different scriptural religions have to say about non-human animals. And there's a lot there in all the world's so-called great religions. But it's, of course, the non-scriptural religions, the earth-centered traditions, that have held the highest regard for non-human animals. All over the world, earth-centered religions have revered non-human animals for their special gifts and traits. There are numerous differences, of course, between various earth-centered traditions all over this planet, both ancient ones and modern ones. But we do know some traditions that have been passed on in different cultures: Native American, Asian, European, Australian, African, and other folklore and practices. You'll hear various terms used, including things like animal spirit guides, totem animals. You'll hear sometimes, especially in neo-pagan traditions, you'll hear power animals. You'll hear about animal familiars. And there's a common idea or a belief across many of these earth-centered traditions that humans are not the only entities that have souls or some type of life principle beyond the basic biology. In some cases, in some traditions, rocks and other things that we might consider inanimate objects are thought to have souls or spirits, like mountains, rivers, might be thought to have a soul or a spirit, whatever the word would be. And of course, certainly then, animals of the land, sky, and sea would also be considered to have souls or spirits, every bit as much as human animals do. And so there's a sense that we humans should revere other animals and that we can learn a lot from them. I've talked here before about ecotherapy and the idea that we humans can do our minds and bodies good by being out in nature, among plants and rivers and so on. Psychological studies have shown that humans are mentally healthier when they spend time out in nature. But today, I'd like us to consider that spending time cultivating relationship with animals is not only good for the mind and body, but for what some might call the spirit. So getting back to this idea of animal guides, there is in some traditions this idea that animals can specifically help us in the form of being a guide for us. Each species of animal has its own unique characteristics, and we can learn. And I do mean every animal, not just those that we typically see as majestic, like the wolf or the bear or the cougar or the eagle, but everything, all fish, all birds, all reptiles, and yes, even insects. Just because it has an exoskeleton, it doesn't mean it couldn't be a guide. You have to try to see past the external particulars to the core traits, just as we try to do, hopefully, with human animals. Today, I want to consider this concept broadly, this idea of animal guides. The animals that might have special connections to us or special life lessons for us. I think of them as species soulmates. And the question is, how would you know what is your animal guide or guides? And there's another piece to this, which is there might be an animal or animals that you're connected to in a long-lasting way, but also animals can be your guides in shorter-term ways. Like there is often a belief in earth-centered traditions that an animal can be your guide in a sort of ad hoc way. If a particular animal crosses your path in a way that's very striking on any given day, perhaps it has a lesson for you on that particular day. So what do animal guides teach us? At the most basic level, of course, as our call to worship the words of Denise Levertov reminded us, they can teach us how to get back in touch with nature, or what some would call source, or Tao, or God. They can teach us how to be most comfortable with our most basic or animal selves. But particular animals also have certain characteristics that might correlate to our own characteristics. They might correlate to traits we know we have, but they might also correlate to hidden skills or traits and help us get in touch with parts of ourselves that we have overlooked or ignored. An animal guide can help us be in touch with our own true nature. They have a lot to teach us about how to be in this world, their strength, their wisdom, how we can feel safer, how we can be our best selves by learning from their best selves. I'm guessing that some of you are excited to try on this animal guide idea for yourself, but probably for some, I'm guessing, it might feel like an uncomfortable stretch. I don't know. And I can understand. You could also think of it, if you prefer, in terms of psychology and Jungian archetypes. I've preached here before about psychoanalyst Carl Jung and synchronicity and the idea that coincidences can be meaningful. Without going into it in detail, you can think of running into a wild animal in striking circumstances, like seeing a blue heron on your roof in the middle of the city, or hearing references to armadillos 5 times in the same day. You could pay attention to striking things like that in a synchronistic way and think about, is there something you're supposed to get from this? You can use your right brain to see past the literal coincidences to the metaphorical or possibly even the spiritual in that way, that intuition can help us see deeper truths. Our psyche, according to this Jungian way of thinking, knows deep truths if we can open ourselves to them. So, how might you discover what your animal guide or guides is or are? There's no quick way to get to the answer, but this morning, if you haven't already, you can at least begin to think about it. There are no definite answers. There's no right or wrong. There will be no quiz later, so just relax, embrace the wonder and mystery of it all. I can't tell you what your animal guide might be. Your intuitions must guide you. That's the only way this can really work. So I want you to think about a few questions that are meant to get you thinking about animals that have made significant appearances in your life. Again, it can be a land animal, reptile, bird, fish, insect, anything. So here's some questions. Is there an animal, besides domestic animals, that you see most frequently? Or an animal that you seem to see in interesting or unusual times or circumstances? Do you remember dreaming about an animal? Perhaps an animal appears frequently in your dreams, or maybe just once or twice, but it really stayed with you. Is there an animal that comes to you in your visions when you meditate or pray, or even when you daydream? Other questions to consider. Is there simply an animal that you've always felt drawn to? When you're out there in nature, or even just in the park, Is there an animal that you most hope to see? An animal that you're really wanting to see? Is there an animal that when you think about it, you just feel happier, or maybe calmer, or maybe just very excited? Have you ever had a really close encounter with an animal in nature where it just came up to you, maybe even touched you or looked at you for a long time? Have you ever had an in-person encounter that just stays with you? Have you had synchronistic experiences with an animal where you keep hearing about the same animal over and over again in conversations and things you're reading and things you might see on TV? So ponder these questions. Consider that ideally, an animal guide chooses you rather than you choosing it. So intuitively, if it sort of feels like an animal is choosing you, calling to you, that's a good clue. I don't know if anything comes to you as you think about it, or perhaps you've already known for some time that there's an animal that you have a special connection with. If not, if it doesn't come right away today, don't be too discouraged. This works best as a process rather than a one-time exercise. And if you haven't thought about it before, now a seed has been planted and maybe you'll start to notice some things. Once you discover what your animal guide or guides might be, it can be that source of guidance and a little extra guidance for your life. Some would say it could be a source of power for you. The archetypal characteristics of the animal might have lessons for you. So for instance, I consider the fox to be my animal guide. I have a strong feeling about it, based on my own answers to the questions I just asked you. What do I do with this? Well, I can think about the special or archetypical characteristics of a fox. And off the top of my head, I think of them as stealthy. I think of them as maybe deceptively clever. I think of them as being in the dog family and yet in some ways feeling more like a cat. Sort of friendly, but also shy. And that's just off the top of my head, common knowledge about foxes. If I look up fox as an animal guide, which you can do in numerous books, or of course on the internet too, you might find things like shape-shifting, observational skills, invisibility, persistence, swiftness, gentleness, etc. Now, you might think that some of those characteristics do describe me, and you might think some of them don't sound like me at all. The spiritual guidance for me would be to use my intuition to consider it for myself. Are there fox characteristics that I seem to have that I should bring out more, or that I should tap into selectively? Or are there characteristics that I don't seem to have at all that might point to a hidden ability or some sort of hidden latent trait that I might possess? Those might be some of the things I would learn from the fox. So when you think of your own possible animal guide, or even just interesting animal encounters day to day, can you think about what the lesson might be there for you intuitively? I hope that in the days and weeks to come, you'll be open to looking for meaningful appearances of animals in your life, and I hope you'll let intuition guide you to interpreting these animal appearances in a meaningful way. You might even find that this can become a kind of spiritual practice for you over time. Let yourself perceive through animals, intuitively, what you already know intellectually. You are profoundly connected to everything and everyone in the universe in ways seen and unseen. May you tap into this wisdom and be more of who you are truly meant to be. May you be comfortable in your own animal skin. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. Once again, the choir has pre-recorded for us a song, All Creatures of the Earth and Sky. And I invite you to both enjoy the music and consider it a time for meditation.
All creatures of the earth and sky, come together with your voices high. Alleluia, alleluia, bright burning sun with golden beam, so shining from the southern gleam. Alleluia, 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 alleluia. Swift rushing winds of golden strong, white clouds that sail in alone. Alleluia, alleluia, their voicing water grace rejoice. Our stars of evening find a voice. Alleluia, 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 alleluia. Flowing water pure and clear, make music for all life to hear. Alleluia, alleluia, dance where fires so strong and bright, and bless us with your warmth and light. Alleluia, 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 alleluia. Embraces mirth day by day, bring forth your blessings on our way. Alleluia, alleluia, all herbs and fruits that richly grow, let them the glory also show. Alleluia, 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 alleluia. All meek of understanding heart, forgiving others take your part. Alleluia, alleluia, let always now the holy bless. Let them worship God in humbleness. Alleluia, 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 alleluia.
Thank you so much, Molly and choir, for doing that. I invite you now to rise in body or spirit for our closing words. And I invite you to hold out your hands if you wish and feel that energy from each other in the room, in the sanctuary, and also thinking of those with us online as well. Our closing words. You are a wondrous species. Humanity, incredible, complicated animals. And yet sometimes overly complicated, detached from the world around us. May we learn
from other animals, how to be more comfortable in our own skins, how to be more comfortable with our true natures, how to be more comfortable in all of nature, in all of its glory. May we learn and grow from their deep wisdom shared with the earth. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.
So nice to hear that organ. So I invite you to go out on the side lawn for fellowship, and we'll see you out there.